If you look at the world, you can draw some parallels. You look at the EU. It started as a coal union. Then it evolved with the years.
Well, today is the 8th of November. This is the day that Raila Odinga chose to have his launch of the campaign, and that launch is happening in Addis Ababa. And the reason as to why the launch will happen in Addis Ababa is very, very critical, because Addis Ababa first is the seat of the Africa Union. As you know, Raila Odinga is going for the AUC chairperson, as well as Addis Ababa is the place where you're going to find all ambassadors of Africa to the Africa Union. So all these ambassadors are in Addis Ababa. And by the way, Raila Odinga was welcomed by the Tanzanian ambassador to the AU. That shows the kind of welcome that Raila Odinga's candidacy has across different countries. We've not seen any other candidate being accepted by countries the way Raila Odinga has been accepted by different countries. Raila Odinga yesterday was in a very high-level meeting with these ambassadors and was also with President Ruto. And in that meeting, Raila Odinga gave out his wisdom about what he's presenting for the Africa Union. It is not just about vibes. It's not about just Raila Odinga being the former Prime Minister of Kenya. It is about the vision that Raila Odinga presented as his manifesto for the African continent. We know that we have 4 contestants of the AUC chairperson. 2 are the main contestants, Raila Odinga and the Djiboutian counterpart, that is Mohamed Yusuf. Well, Mohamed Yusuf is also very actively campaigning, but we have not heard much about what Mohamed Yusuf is presenting for the African continent. We know that Mohamed Yusuf has been campaigning so much in the French-speaking African nations. He was in the Francophonie Africa Summit that was held by France just last month. That shows that he has also been doing his homework. He has also been doing his campaigns, even if they are not as broadcasted as much as Raila Odinga's campaigns have been broadcasted. But one thing is for sure is that Raila Odinga is receiving these high-profile leaders. He's having meetings with high-profile leaders. Yesterday, Raila Odinga was having a meeting with these ambassadors. He also met with the Prime Minister of Ethiopia, that is Abiy Ahmed, to speak about the candidacy of Raila Odinga. And something very, very interesting that came out of this was that President Ruto was campaigning for Raila Odinga in that summit. President Ruto was assigned a position in the AU as the president, or the person who will be leading the changes, the dynamic changes in the AU. And President Ruto was very keen to present also what Raila Odinga is presenting as part of his manifesto. But first of all, before we go to Ruto, let us speak about Raila Odinga. Raila Odinga was keen to point out the fact that the Africa Union is not properly constituted. It's not in the right place at the time to be called the Africa Union. That yes, we want the Africa Union to be like the European Union, but the fact is the Africa Union is not at the same level with the European Union. There are some stages that a particular region is supposed to follow so that they can be at the stage of the European Union. And these stages are very, very critical. The Africa Union is not at the same place because we don't have a customs union. We don't have a free market. Right now, all of our borders are still very, very much restricted in terms of tariffs. We don't have common tariffs. We have the vision of the African Free Continental Trade Area, but we don't have such a framework yet working. So we have very good policies, but they are not being implemented. So Raila Odinga was very keen to say that I am the person who is going to make sure that all these policies that you come to pass here in Addis Ababa are implemented. So these are the promises that Raila Odinga is giving, that we are going to be like the EU. The EU did not just sign up countries in one day and became the EU. There are proper stages that Africa Union needs to follow. Africa Union needs to remove the trade barriers. We need to remove the tariffs. We need to make a customs union. That is, we need to have that commonality in all these countries to make sure that all goods that are coming from outside Africa, outside the African continent, will have to pay a common tariff to all African states to ensure that now we have a common union. We have to have political union. That is, policies that are passed in Kenya should be discussed, critically discussed in Nigeria. What is passed in Botswana should be discussed in Sudan. These are the kinds of harmonization that are lacking in Africa that Raila Odinga pointed out and said that if you elect me as the AUC chairperson, I will make sure that we get to that level of the EU, not just by name, but by deed, but by actions, but by the trade that will be happening in Africa, because intra-Africa trade is really, really low. We have that challenge as Africa. We are trading more with countries outside Africa than countries within Africa. By the way, Kenya's second largest trading partner is the United States. That is after Tanzania. Kenya trades with many countries in Africa, but we trade more with the United States as compared to African states. So that tells you what is happening in even other African states. Raila Odinga was also very, very keen to point out of the African riches, that we are very rich as a continent. We have all it takes to be the richest continent in Africa, but we lack the harmonization, lack the leadership. We have uranium, we have coltan, we have gold, we have every mineral that these countries will want, and they are still siphoning that mineral, but we still are the poorest in the entire world. So Raila Odinga was saying that if he gets elected, these are the things that he has to address, that we need to have dignity in our minerals, we need to have better pay. Even if you're going to sell our minerals outside, people should be paid better. You know what is happening in Congo with cobalt? We have little children mining diamond, mining gold in West Africa, and they are not getting anything out of it. These huge corporations are taking a lot of money out of Africa, yet they are giving peanuts to Africans, if at all they are giving anything. So Raila Odinga put that into perspective and said, these are the things that are very important for us to address, and that is the mandate that he's going to take when he gets elected as the next AUC chairperson. President Ruto also took podium and he spoke about the security situation in Africa, that there is a need to speak about what changes can be made to face the security situations in Africa. He says that it's as if this security situation is falling out of hand. We've had crises in Sudan. Right now, there is a civil war in Sudan. There are still ongoing political and military crises in South Sudan. There are ongoing challenges in Congo, DRC, and the Western Sahel region. We still have challenges. He said that it seems as if our framework to address peace is not working in Africa, and we need a better approach to address issues of conflict so that Africa can forge ahead as one continent. Because if we have these challenges in terms of political conflict and challenges of military conflict in Africa, then the unionization of Africa is only going to remain as a dream. So President Ruto was telling the ambassadors there and the high-level guests that Raila Odinga is the person to ensure that this will be implemented. So that happened yesterday, and the support that Raila Odinga is getting from William Ruto, the support that he is getting from other countries, is a telltale sign that he's being accepted, that different countries are taking him as the person who should be at that stature, and he's making it even more harder for the Djiboutian counterpart to get a hold of him, because Raila Odinga has the muscle, he is gaining ground, he is gaining the influence that is needed to be the next AUC chairperson.